Hey everybody, Bear from Need to Breathe, and I'm hanging out on the Kelly Alexander Show.
What's up, y'all? I'm Kelly Clarkson.
Hey, Steve McRae.
Hey, I'm Josh from the band Need to Breathe.
I'm Olivia Luddy.
We are so excited to welcome to the Kelly Alexander Show, Akon. Hi.
What up, Kels?
Hey, I'm Judy Gold.
And I'm hanging out with the Kelly Alexander Show.
This is Jordan, and I'm hanging out on the Kelly Alexander Show.
I'm Rob, and I'm hanging out on the Kelly Alexander Show.
I'm hanging out with the Kelly Alexander Show right now.
Jealous?
We are very excited to welcome to the Kelly Alexander Show the lead singer of American rock band from South Carolina, Need to Breathe. Hello, Bear Rinehart. Thanks so much for spending time with us.
What's going on? Thanks for having me.
I should also mention that you're Grammy-nominated. That's a big deal too to have as a band. We're going to talk about things in a bit, but I wanted to start off with you because I've interviewed Josh before, and it was great to have him on the show. And I wanted to ask, where did you get your musical start?
Oh man, my dad was a preacher growing up in a Pentecostal church, so we had loud, long services and really diverse. And so I kind of grew up on gospel music a little bit. My mom was a piano teacher. My dad was a trumpet player. He used to tour around with Roy Clark and Glenn Campbell in the 70s before he became a preacher, which is crazy. And so, yeah, it was just all around the house. I didn't start writing songs until I was about 16. That's when it got kind of serious. And yeah, songwriting to me was the thing. I didn't really learn a lot of other people's songs. It's like kind of immediate. When I learned 4 chords, it's like, here's the first song, and they were horrible, of course, but that's kind of how it happened. And then through high school, I had some buddies that I played with. In college, freshman year of college, we started the band. So yeah, it's been a crazy long career.
I understand that you were also like a wide receiver in college. So was it hard to make a switch, or did you get injured and had to make the switch?
No, I did it at the same time, believe it or not. They were really, fortunately, the college I went to had a guy that was a quarterback that was a guitar player before me. So he'd kind of loosened him up to the idea, I think. and it was crazy. I mean, the first couple of years, I remember we would go to a game on a Saturday. I would get on the tour bus, or I get on the van with the band instead of going back on the bus with the team to go to a show the same night. So like we probably played 50, 60 shows a year, I bet. Just selling EPs out of our car and that kind of thing. So it was a wild. School, I think, is the thing that lost in that formula.
I actually wanted to ask you, being, on the team, and I know like American football is like sacred, and I know that, much is demanded from players by the team, and it's a team environment, and there's no I in team and all that kind of stuff. I'm just wondering, were you able to apply some of that mentality that you had in football and were dealing with the coaches, being as a part of a band?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, even I've got like little boys now, and they're starting to play sports and stuff. It's like, for one, it teaches you failure. I think for my kids, that's my favorite thing about it. It's like you see them struggle. I hate to see it, but I also can't do that for them. Like teach them that resilience, and then I think ownership. Like it's an extreme form of ownership. Like what you do is going to be on tape, and the whole team is going to watch, and they're going to put the laser pointer on you and be like, "Why didn't you go harder?" And I think that carries over into our band now. I think we all have that. I mean, we're the kind of band, like when we make a mistake, we walk off the stage, we apologize to the rest of the guys. So there's a feeling of like, hey, we owe this to each other. We're counting on each other. We trust each other. So yeah, I think it's definitely carried over.
How did you guys come together as a band?
Well, when I was in college, I knew the original drummer. I was roommates with him. And so we were like the annoying kids on the dorm room, thing, like playing the djembe and acoustic music and all that kind of stuff. So I just was in love with the idea of being in a band. It was more than just, I mean, the music, obviously, was writing songs. I needed a place for that, but it was also like all the artistic forms of like creating a show, and what does production look like, and what is how do you, maybe for my dad being a gospel preacher, having that sort of like, how do you have a ramp in the show and that real feverish kind of thing. I just always loved that. So like immediately it was band, time for me. And we struggled through, like we had really bad band names and all that stuff. But that's kind of how it started. It just evolved. We were just like, we want to be the biggest band, like a 5-hour circle around where we live. And so we just would promote like those shows like crazy and really keep them like we only can play them once a year. They got to be the biggest show we've ever played and all this kind of, so that's really how it got going.
And what does it mean coming like, from South Carolina? Do you find that being from that area seeps into the music that you're producing always?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we realized how much until much later. Because we grew up around bluegrass and gospel and all this, and like we didn't realize how much the Southern Harmony thing just happened naturally to us. And then we started experimenting with banjos and all this stuff. That was stuff that we had seen. So it was natural to us. Um, I think it took us several years before we realized, like before we had, toured Europe and all this kind of places, like, well, this maybe is a little bit different. Maybe we had something around us that wasn't affecting us. And I think it does.
Talk to us about being the lead singer because there is added pressure to that, I think, especially after interviewing so many artists that are in bands. So, what's it like to be the lead singer? And also, like, do you feel like the quarterback, I guess, being in that position?
Sometimes and maybe in that way, like the quarterback analogy of like distributing the ball is important, getting the ball to your best players. I think there's a thing with the band. I think even just as a band leader to go like, man, Led Zeppelin would not be Led Zeppelin without each individual member. And if we were like early on, like if we're going to be a band, we have to be like that. It has to matter. Players have to matter. This is not just a singer up there in front of some guys in the dark. And so I think yeah, there's a certain pressure. I mean, physically, I think is the main pressure. That's what I feel more and more is just vocally. It's how many shows and the travel and how all that affects it. Like I feel they always joke with me because I go to bed first normally on the bus. They're like, "Night, Daddy." They, they give me a hard time about it, but I do have to kind of take care of myself a little bit more.
It's actually interesting that you said that because I've interviewed now like I interviewed Nikki Sixx, for example, from Motley Crue, and he talked about how like kind of in the past when he was up and coming, and I guess that the 80s, whatever, nobody cared, so you did whatever and partied
Sure.
whatever and then just hammered on. But he's like now before he goes out with Motley, like it's a huge undertaking to make sure he's in shape and the band's good and all that stuff. So do you have like especially coming from a sports background, do you have like a physical regime that you need to follow? I know the sleeping thing, but
Yeah, it's all boring stuff to be honest with you. It's like staying hydrated and getting enough sleep is the biggest thing. I found out that like the one-offs were tough. Like when you're a young band, you're playing 45-minute hour sets or something like that. Now band plays 2 hours pretty much every night. So if I have been off for 3 weeks and we go to a one-off and there's 10,000 people and you're not ready physically to sing that show, that's the toughest thing. So yeah, it looks ridiculous, but I do my warm-ups 4 days out of a one-off. So I start with like a 20-minute, 30-minute, 40-minute kind of build up like that. And I always do it when I'm on the treadmill. So I'm in my gym, like singing, running. Luckily it's at my house, so I'm not bothering anybody. But there's some of that goes into it. And just kind of knowing your voice. The older I get, the more I've done this, the more I can like tell, how much of that buildup I'm gonna need. And so it's that stuff. I wouldn't say I'm like great. We still stay up too late and we still have a great time. We're still a rock and roll band, but it's the preparation, I think.
do you route your tours in a certain way also because of time zones and all that kind of stuff because you're playing with your rhythms?
I wish we could say that we do. And we try. I think, a lot of it's like mental, I think, for us. Like, every couple of weeks we need to be home for a few days. Especially all of us have kids now and that kind of thing. So it's changed that it gets tough, when you're out there. If you're in Europe for 3 weeks or whatever, then you can just feel everybody kind of the weight of that. And so I think we probably do that more. I mean, I'm in Maryland today. I was in Big Sky, Montana yesterday. So I had a crazy flight back to Nashville to here and whatever. And I'm going to try to get my kid has a football game tomorrow at like 10:45 in the morning. So I'll be out driving 3 hours to get to the airport so I can leave at 6 a.m. So we probably don't take care of ourselves as good as we should, but we've gotten, I guess, just better at the chaos. I think a young musicians always tell them like you got to learn how to rest standing up.
Yeah.
That's what the road is like. If you're tense about everything all the time, it's exhausting. But there's a lot of downtime, after sound check and those kind of things. So like taking advantage of that, it's important.
Speaking of your kids, when you became a dad, did it change you as an artist or how did it change you as an artist?
In some ways, I think the first couple of years, obviously you're going through this major thing of like, you didn't realize how selfish you were for one, and you don't realize like how much energy you have for those kind of things and how much you could love something. that kind of gets crazy. So your perspective of like life and death, maybe even is becomes real. And so I think that seeped into the songs a lot early on. Now maybe not as much. Yeah, I think the live show is really fun. That my boys are the oldest are getting to figure out what I do. So them coming to a show is like a pretty massive deal for me. It's really fun. So I mean, I think it affects it, but less and less. The songs that they like don't normally make the record, and they get angry about that. So
That's awesome. Talk to us about the album Caves. I know it's your ninth studio album. Like, was there a different process going into this? How do you guys keep it fresh?
yeah, I think each time I think for us, like we have to have a framework for what we're gonna do. I don't think we know the songs necessarily, but at least in general, like the production and what we're gonna try to do. And this one was really a big sounding record. We just felt like, I don't know, cheap is the new cool these days, and that's been going on for a while. It's like kind of got tired of hearing records that sound like demos all the time on the radio. I was like, well, let's make a big sounding record, like the early Oasis records, or like that kind of like monumental kind of sounding thing. And so for better or worse, that's how we like set out with this record. So there's a lot of there's string arrangements on there, and we spent a lot of time just feeling like the presentation was flawless.
Do you have a set time in your head where you're like, yeah, this song isn't working. Let's either put it aside or it's not worth it?
No, but I don't think there's an exact time, because sometimes a song, if it's great, might take a bunch of iterations, like, and you're close. But I've always said in the studio, I just think, it's easy to make a good song great, and it's impossible to make a bad song good.
Yeah.
And I think you figure that out a little bit as you get into it. You're like, man, what we were beating our heads against the wall trying to make this cool. It's the song's problem. It's not our problem. And so I do think we have a little more trust and faith in that. Like most of the time, if a song really ignites us, or we're going to have a reaction with people, it'll do it early. And
The way
so not
you guys
overthinking that's important.
The way
No,
you
go ahead.
guys sequence this album, did you slave over that? Because I know, like, for me, I love albums that kind of have some kind of either story to it or like cohesion, or it makes sense. And I know now it's a singles market, I think, in a lot of the pop genre,
Sure.
for example. But you guys are a rock band. Do you slave over sequencing?
We do, because I think, like, the way we see it is like it's the thing that we can control. We don't necessarily control how people listen to this stuff, but I think we're always making records that are like headphone records. That's in our mind. That's like the pinnacle of, like, can people have an experience when they sit down and listen if they gave it time? Obviously, we know that most people don't do that, but I think for us, like, that's the thing. It's important to us, and I think we have weird, incredible fans. Like, if you ever come to a show of ours, you'll see it's broad group of people, but they're also like they feel ownership in this thing. Like, we've been going a long time. They feel, so it's like it's my 13th show or whatever. This song meant this to me. So I feel like we have a reverence for that when we're putting the records out.
How did you guys decide on who you're going to collaborate with on this time around? Because you've got like amazing people, Carly Pierce, Old Dominion, the list goes on.
Yeah. Honestly, it was kind of easy. We didn't really think we were going to do that, and then as we were making the songs, because we spent time with them, we're like, well, it'd be kind of cool to have somebody. We met Old Dominion. We were doing an Allman Brothers tribute in New York, and we did a couple songs. They did a couple songs, and we were backstage, and they were like, "We're the biggest fans." And we that blew us away. We didn't know that, and so when the song came up, I was like, I called the guys, and they were like, they didn't even listen to it. I don't think they just were like, "We're in." so I feel like the collaborations work best that way. Carly was the same way. I was like, man, a female voice would be incredible. And I think Carly's one of those voices like that could be a soul voice. It doesn't have to be country in that way. She's got a real like earnestness to her voice, and I thought it would fit. And she was like, I'm a big fan. Let's do this. So yeah, hopefully it's natural. Normally, I don't think we make a lot of cold calls when we do that.
Is there Bear, is there someone that's still on your bucket list that you want to collaborate with next time around, or?
Oh man, there's always people. I mean, Dolly would be one for me. Funny enough, I've always thought, I was a big fan of those like early Americana records where like Emmy Lou was on every record and those kind of things. So like there's some romanticism about that. I don't know that people would care, but for me, that would be very cool. That's something like that. Lucinda Williams, like I would love to do like a sort, maybe even a cover. We do Can't Let Go all the time. And so something from Car Wheels would be insane.
When you guys are coming to Canada, like touring, I know you've been here before. What have you noticed about Canadian audiences versus your American fans?
Well, I mean, I think first of all, like it's obviously it's a big country, so it's hard to say. Like it's very, Vancouver does feel a little like Seattle in a way. It's like it got kind of there are some comparisons. I think the people have always been incredibly sweet to us, which is a huge thing. Believe it or not, like if you're out on the road that many weeks, not necessarily the fans themselves, but the people you meet every day. And so we've always just felt like a certain level of respect there, which has been cool. And but I think any place we go that we don't go often, you see an increased amount of like appreciation for it. So I would say, some of these shows have been the wilder ones. I know a lot of American artists that would say that, like, believe it or not, man, Canada shows they go hard, and so I dig that.
I would agree, especially here in my hometown of Montreal. Like I know we are next level, so you will definitely have a good show when you come
There
here.
we go.
Is there any Canadian artists that you know of that you would also like to collaborate with, like up here? Is there somebody on your radar?
Oh man, you know, we used to do stuff with Serena Ryder a lot. It's been a long time, but I always thought she was great. And but like my first answer with that always is Neil Young. So yeah, just I think that's probably a pipe dream. But maybe we'll just be an extra in his video or something like that someday.
I have just a couple more questions. After you are done with this tour and promoting this album, is it rest time? Or are you going to do some more solo stuff? Because I know you have your solo gig also, and I'm just
Yeah.
wondering what fans can expect from you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out and tour the Wilderwood stuff next. So that'll be exciting. The band's doing some one-off things, and we've got some songs coming out with different things that we can't announce yet, but little TV shows and different, so some singles and stuff like that. The band's gonna take a real beat before we make a new record. I think we know that. I think we're kind of like we're going into our 10th record, and we're kind of putting out there like, man, maybe this is our last one. Like I hope it isn't, but we're kind of like we're going to spend a lot of time on this record and make sure it's a record that we're proud of, and so yeah, we're going to take a little bit of time there, but we'll tour again next year, I'm sure, with the band, festivals and those kind of things.
What's the best part about being out on tour? Because I know we talked about some of the challenges, but yeah, what's the best part for you?
I think something I've always thought about with the songwriting is that it's like we want the audience to feel like they're a co-writer. It's like there's ownership to the songs that they apply them to their lives, and we try to keep the songs ambiguous in some ways because of that. I've just always thought that was like the magic. When I read a book, if these characters mean something different to me than they do somebody else, that's huge. And so I think seeing that in real time is probably the thing that I like the most about it. Is just, I've been doing a thing where I go out in the crowd and walk around during a song, and I come back to the band. I'm just like full every time. I'm like, this is crazy. There's some kids out there crying, and shaking, and they're like, and then there's like grandmothers, give me a hug, and it's like it's just that sort of connection is something that obviously you just don't get in a studio or in the tour bus or whatever it is. So I think that is important to me. And the band is probably, I mean, I can say this for sure, is the band is better live than we've ever been. We really care about it, take it seriously, and we've just obviously getting better over the years. And so I'm really excited to get on the stage every time we do now. It just feels like, man, maybe there's like a next level we could hit tonight, and so that's fun.
I know a lot of artists and bands have causes that they support, and I know that you guys do some stuff about foster care. Can you just explain to the fans that might not know what that's about for you and the meaning behind
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Four Others is the organization we work with. And that's their whole mission is to end the child welfare crisis in America in particular. And I think it's been cool because I just spent 3 days at an event for them and learning all about what they're doing. And they really have their whole thing is like they're not reinventing the wheel. They're finding organizations that are doing a great job and giving them back and making them connected. And they're doing it through technology and all kinds. It's would kind of blow your mind, honestly, what they're doing. So what we're doing is just taking them on the road and a little bit of awareness to talk about it a couple minutes a night, and $1 of every ticket goes to them. So I think the fans have raised over the last like year and a half 1.7 million for Others, which is just crazy to me.
Yeah.
So we're really proud of that.
That's amazing. I did want to ask you too, like, American fans and America in general, being a Canadian, like, I have so many American fans and friends, I should say. And I know that you're such a great people, but you guys have been in strife obviously for a while, especially in the political climate. Like you as an artist and as a band, like how are you guys navigating that, especially with the big decision that's coming up next month?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think, you know, it's easy to say we just stay out of it. But I think we try to influence in a different way. And I feel like it's not necessarily who you vote for, but how you vote, how you act. And I think we've kind of lost a lot of that, it feels like to me. So our character as people and how we treat people, it's just, I think that's where I would say if we focus in on a certain place, it's that through the songs. And hopefully we're a good example of that. You know, it has gotten carried away. Obviously, there's a million reasons with social media and all these, you know, all these things, but it is very divisive and people want to hate somebody. And I don't understand that. That clearly is not the way forward. So I think that's where we lean.
I just have 3 or 4 quick questions for you that I like to do so fans get to know you a bit better. Do you have a favorite board game of all time?
Scrabble.
Nice. If you could switch places with another artist or producer for one day, who would it be and why?
Ooh, artist or producer. I'd like to do it. Dave Cobb. I'd switch with him and do a Stapleton record for a day.
Amazing. Screensaver on your phone, is it like your family?
The three boys. Yeah.
Perfect. That's a good answer. I wanted to ask you too, if you could be on a group text of like a sitcom, like a hit sitcom or a drama that you like, which group text with the cast would you like to be in on?
Oh, that's great. First season of Fargo.
Oh wow. Okay, that's great.
Okay. Me and Billy Bob, just, you know, that would be, maybe that's the way I'd go.
And if calories didn't count, what would Bear Rinehart be eating all day long?
Ice cream, Breyers mint chocolate chip.
Perfect. I knew we get along. That's a good answer.
There you go.
Do you have a message for your fans when you're coming to Montreal that you'd like to share with?
Man, just come see us. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of parts of the show that are up and down, and it's a lot of light and shade. So, and we just take it very seriously. So you're going to get a great show. You won't see an off night. We'll be thankful to be there, and I think you will be too.
Amazing. Bear, thanks so much for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
That is Bear Rinehart, again, of Need to Breathe. Check them out on their website, needtobreathe.com. You'll grab all their social media handles and, of course, their tour dates.
Hey, it's Kelly Alexander, and thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kelly Alexander Show, so you are the first in line for all the cool content coming your way.